YouTube. All right. We're apparently live on YouTube.
Going on, my man?
Not much. Hey, so thanks for coming. I really do appreciate it. For all the guys that are listening, if you're new to this, I always ask for you guys to ask questions. So I kind of have my little agenda that's going on here that I want to talk to Aaron about. But I mean, you guys turn this whatever direction you guys want to turn it. So you can ask questions and we'll do whatever we can to answer them. But before we get started, let me open up my YouTube studio just in case we do need to pull up the chat box. And Aaron, again, thanks so much for joining. I'm super pumped for this. You and I have known each other for a little while, not closely,
Yeah.
but we did the club thing together. We're part of the Barrie Bassmasters. I think I fished with you once or twice through the club there. And interestingly enough, I was listening to a few podcasts that actually had you on there. And I laughed so hard because you actually told the story of when you and I went fishing. And I think it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago. And you were fishing spy baits. And and you told the story about how I was like, dude, is that how you bring in your jerkbait?
You just reel that jerkbait in straight like that?
Does this guy not know what he's doing? What's happening?
That was awesome, man. That was so good. I'll now, it's funny because like anybody who fishes knows that there's those fish that you won't ever forget, and that was one for me because I remember we were kind of plugging around out there, and then all of a sudden it made a cast, and I was wanting a spy bait, it's like brand new.
Yeah.
And I'm just carrying it through, and one just stopped it, and you're like, oh god, that's a good. I was like, that is a good one. And then we caught a couple more like that, and you're like, you just wind your jerkbait. It's so straight and slow like that.
I like how you say we. You were the only one catching them. All right. So we got some people in the chat.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I know. We got some people in the chat. Hey, I hope you guys can hear and see us. I'm using a new program, so just chat in the chat room there if you can hear and see us. Hopefully you can. Ryan's in there. Hey, how's it going? Nellie's Fishing. He comes in every week, man. Nellie's Fishing Adventures. Hey, buddy. Outdoor Fishing Adventures. He comes every week. So thanks for joining, guys. I'll say it again. Throw some chats in there, questions to Aaron here as we get going. I have my own agenda, but, we'll turn it whatever direction you want to go. But before we get started, so let's tell everybody kind of like a little bit about you. I mean, you're a father of kids. You're married. You got a dog and a house, and of course you're part of this Woo Tungsten, which is like one of the fastest growing fishing brands, in my opinion, out there. But on top of that, there's other stuff that people don't know about you too. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're the CEO of another company. I mean, there's stuff about you that we don't know. So for people that don't know you, can we give them a little synopsis on who Aaron Anders is?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's man, there's a lot going on there. It's 100% it, right? I got two little boys right now. We got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, so things are a little chaotic. I am incredibly fortunate that my wife can read to them, put them to bed. I don't have to, you know what I mean? We don't have to worry about it. I can sit here and be quiet with you. It's kind of nice. Woo's been amazing. I mean, I've fished all my life, and Woo for me, honestly, is with kids and just chapter of life. It's been my way to go elbows deep into the industry. Like, I don't get to spend as much time on the water, and I knew that was kind of coming. So for me, this is the way that I get to be in it all the time, right? Like, we couldn't be out on the water right now, but we can sit here and we can talk fishing. And if it wasn't for Woo, you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking fishing right now. So that's been a huge piece of why that's there. I run another company called College Pro. Most people have heard of College Pro, student window cleaning and painting. So I oversee that business for Canada. So for me, like I've kind of always been an entrepreneur. That's a sexy word right now.
Yes.
But for me, like, I was that kid that was, when I moved into our house in Barrie when I was like 7, I guess. We were like the last subdivision of the new build, and they were starting to build new houses. And I would sit there and I would like see that snack truck go by and time it. I'm like, what do they sell? And then they're selling pop, and I was like, okay, how much? And I was like, okay, well, wait a sec, they sell it for $1, but it's like 25 cents in the store. So what if I sold it for 50 cents? And drag like the cooler behind and do like 3 times a day. And my mom would have to go to No Frills and keep getting pop and pop and pop, because I knew, like, I'm like, okay, well, we'll buy it for $3 and I can go hoof it and sell it and for $7 or $8, and I can do this over and over and over again. So it's just always it's kind of been in me, and fishing has always been in me. So it kind of came together and was in a really cool way about 4 years ago and became Tungsten. So again, you started off like you and I got a chance to spend time on the water. I love it. That's like it's what I think about. When I'm falling asleep, like if I'm driving to work
Nice.
and I'm like, man, the wind is so flat, or like this little, it smells like that like May, like that middle of May when I like get that smell in the morning. I'm like, oh man, it's probably a good pike bite. Just I'm like, it's just that itch. It's
Yeah.
so in me. But I've got, I'm in a chapter of my life right now that I'm really enjoying, but is also keeping me off the water.
Yeah.
So for me, that's where Woo is. But I don't know. It's a bit about me. I grew up here, grew up local, and I'm super fortunate to be near one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the world, but also a smallmouth fishery where I can go try and catch some smallmouth, have a manual downrigger at the back of my bass boat, pull it out of a rod locker, and go catch a lake trout.
That's true.
like
Yeah.
like 300 yards from where we just were. So, I don't know. I think it's just a super fortunate kind of coming together of all the different things that I love to do, and we're here today, and we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. Awesome. I have to ask though, because you're a fisherman and you have one of the top tungsten brands in the world, how often is Woo stuff tested in Lake Simcoe before it hits the product shelves?
Well, I mean, I'll say a couple things. One, often.
Nice.
Two, like one very often. I mean, like the Ned was out there like crazy. I mean, that was one that we had to get. The balance on that thing had to be perfect. Um, the swim bait hook actually was cooching a fair bit, right? Like throwing a swim bait shallow water, making sure it came through true, especially with the smaller hooks and the heavier weights. That was had to get that one proper. So definitely a fair bit. But then there's like again, a drop shot weight's kind of a drop shot weight.
Sure, sure. I'm thinking about
There
all the
wasn't a
guys
whole
that
lot
are like
testing with that.
thinking I'm the first guy to throw this bait on Lake Simcoe because I got it first. So no,
Yeah,
sorry, Aaron's already done
on the north end,
it.
maybe in different parts of the lake, but the north end they've seen it a few times.
Nice, nice. So so let's start it from the very, very beginning. Let's talk about Woo before it was Woo. So I mean, if I understand correctly, and I could be wrong here, Woo was an existing brand that you had purchased, or was this something that came out of nowhere and you just decided I'm going to do a tungsten brand and this is it?
Yeah, well, it's the second piece. So it was I was really I was getting really sick of getting bit off by pike, flipping weed beds and cooch, and all G pool and all the lakes up this way, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're flipping and you feel a thunk and you get halfway through setting the hook and there's nothing there. I just like so it was kind of that, but it was about Woo started in 2016, so tungsten was just I don't say it's just starting, but it'd been around for a while, but it was just starting to become like called more mainstream, right, where you could see it. And I started flipping with it the year before, and especially like late in the year before, where I was starting to flip like a 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce weight, and the difference was unbelievable. And I was like, whoa, like this is different. And still to this, like the biggest question that we get asked all the time is why tungsten? Why would I bother spending the extra money on tungsten? And for me, like that summer before, I learned 100% why. So started looking actually for a tungsten sponsor, work with a tungsten company. And then it kind of clicked. It's kind of like, well, if I am, I bet a lot of other people are too. So we started actually looking for a manufacturing partner, and then kind of worked our way through it that way. So really the pike in some of our lakes up here are the reason it exists right now. But no, we started just straight out, and I've got a great partner in Chris, the guy I used to fish tournaments with all the time. He's in the U.S. right now, so he's actually on the West Coast. So it works for Canada and the U.S. and a lot of other things that that we do. But yeah, and it started out of the frustration of the $7 lip ring that a pike would be swimming around with after biting a after biting out a Texas rig
That's
in
awesome,
one of those
awesome.
lakes.
So anytime we catch a pike, we can just quickly say thank you before we release it
Yeah, just
back.
give him a little tap on the head. It probably has to be like a a 6 pound pike right now.
They're
But yeah,
bigger now. Yeah.
it could have been that one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know that. See, I was under the impression that it was an existing company that you would purchase. So that's interesting. Very cool. So from the time that you purchased it to, or sorry, purchased it, from the time that you decided to make it to the time that you were actually in full production, what kind of timeline are we looking at? Because you said it was 2016, and I think probably that same year, right?
Yeah, it was the same year. We found our manufacturer, and we started with flipping weights and drop shot weights. So the manufacturer was the manufacturer, right? Like they were something that had a relatively existing product that we tweaked, which doesn't take very long. So adding some things like stamping the size on the side and just adding some existing, like some tweaks to it, made it really, really simple. So when we first launched the site, we literally, that's all we had was flipping weights and drop shot weights. And then we added nail weights because that was a relatively easy one too. And then we started kind of going down the path of building products, which like ridiculously takes something along the lines of like 18 to 24 months. Like that was one of the things that just blew my mind because
Really?
initially it was so easy, right? And that's the thing I think that the biggest part of like the industry as a whole right now, it's actually not that challenging to go start a fishing company right now. The world got really small, especially in 2020. The brand matters. So things like that we get, there's a lot of smaller tungsten companies that are popping up, which is awesome. Like honestly, I get asked every once in a while, like if that is something that bothers me. It's not. Like it's awesome. Like I hope somebody else is out there being able to get themselves more into fishing, like I did as a part of it. Right? Like I was into it on the water, but I've been able to get into it in a different way. But things like customer service and dealing with things like USPS right now in the US and all those other things like and it's an inventory company, which means if you're predicting that you're going to be bigger in 8 weeks from now, 8 to 12 weeks from now, you got to bring in inventory more than you currently have, which means the cash flow that you're generating now is all going into future inventory to grow your inventory asset. Otherwise, you're going to run out. So,
Right.
it's that thing. It's like when you go on our site, like nothing's. I shouldn't say that. Knock on wood. We got one SKU out of stock right. We have about 450 SKUs total. We've got one that we're out of stock on right now.
Wow.
But like that type of thing, and being able to cash flow it in a way that allows it to carry the inventory predictions. And again, like I said, customer service. You can imagine the number of DMs that we get.
Oh, I bet.
I'm gonna send a text message out. We have a text message platform. It's like legitimately me and my thumbs. So I'll send one out tomorrow to anyone's a part of our text message platform. That's me, and that's gonna be. I'm gonna have 4 hours in the afternoon blocked off because I'm on vacation from my day job, right? Like to sit there and I'm gonna write back to people. And tomorrow we're just gonna wish everybody a Merry Christmas and thanks for being part of 2020. So like all those like extra things, dealing with pros and pro contracts, and like I know you had Eric Luzak on. He's someone we work with, a great dude, right? But it's not that easy to put together like a contract that works for both people, especially when you're trying to have this cash flow thing that's happening, and we're moving into retail, which is a whole different world, especially with big retailers in the U.S. and just all sorts of different things that come with the business side, right? So I think it's been an interesting progression, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
super fortunate and thankful that I've had a lot of other different business experiences to be able to kind of set a foundation. But when we got into it, gosh, like that first 6 months was the easiest 6 months. Some people think it's like the
Really?
hardest 6 months. Whoa, by far. Like you think of like a 17-year-old kid can get into way more trouble than a 17-month-old kid, right? Like that's kind of where we're at right now. Like our initial order, like we'd order 1,000 pieces as like an initial test order to work with our manufacturer, and we thought that was insane. And we went through sold 9,000 units on Black Friday.
Wow.
So we sold, I don't call it 30,000 pieces in 36 hours. So it's just a different beast, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with, again, we do tackle warehouses, they're a fantastic partner, no issues there. But some of the bigger partners, like you got a whole bunch of dollars outstanding and COVID rips through and they go bankrupt, you'd have a big problem.
Hell yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? It's different than just like selling some weights at your bass club or or being a drop shot and flipping weight direct to consumer company. So again, I say that like almost on both sides. Like I love that I don't love competition. We want to win,
Sure, of
but like
course.
but 100%, like whoever wants in, like come play, and then it takes that time to be able to withstand it, and it gets harder, not easier. In my experience, at least, I don't know but in my experience, it gets harder as the business gets bigger because you've got more stuff to handle, more noise. We get a lot more DMs at 170,000 followers than we did when we had 17,000
I
followers.
bet.
So and we want to get back to them. We don't want to be just a faceless whatever brand. So yeah, it's been an interesting kind of like, as you say, kind of like growth period as to how it kind of has become over the last 4 years, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. And I know just from the small business that I have, the experience of just trying to keep SKUs in stock for me
Oh
is
yeah.
so difficult. And to hear that you only have one out of stock, I'm a little angry about myself not keeping up. But so when you first started, did you have anything like you were pushing the brand before you had the product? So were you creating hype? I see a lot of guys, and for the guys listening, this is for people that like you say, want to start their own small company, or maybe are even fishermen trying to create a brand for themselves out there for, let's say, sponsors or something like that. Creating the hype for Woo, because looking back at 2016 is, what's that, 4 years? Is that 4 years? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing my math right, like that's not a long time. And for companies, when you hear about companies, they say, if I understand the saying properly, it's like 5 years. If you make it 5 years, you're good, right? Like that's you're starting and you're good, right?
Yeah.
But you're not just making it in 5 years. You've conquered a lot in 4 years. So I'm curious on what that looks like for you to build that company. And I want to look at it from a social media perspective, because I think that would really help our guys here. What did you do that maybe could help these guys build that audience? Like you say, you have 100 and some odd thousand people on your Instagram in 4 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's huge.
Well, I I mean, I wish it was like I wish it was easy. One, I mean, you said it's funny that you say like for like 4 years. You're like, yeah, it doesn't sound like long. Like to a lot of people, like if they're on there for 4 months and they haven't hit 10,000 followers, it's like game over, and it's all,
Yeah.
you lose interest. So I think like that's a big thing. That's number one, is like it's like consistent. Also, like if we stopped engaging with our community now, it would go backwards. It's like going to the gym, right? Like, you got to stay with it. You don't just like get fit and you're good, right?
Yeah.
Like the other thing that I think about a lot, that I'm thinking about a lot right now, is like, what if Instagram goes away, right? Like, I don't know. Like, what if our account gets hacked, right? Like, it can go away too.
Sure.
I think like, so for us, like one of the biggest things that we've tried to do is create a community. And I think we did that from the beginning. We started actually building the Woo Instagram before we introduced a product. That's what that's what I kind of thought we had to do. I was like, if we can't build a community, like I didn't want to be just like, and again, I don't mean it in any negative way, but I didn't want to just be a guy selling tungsten weights like out of my trunk at Clubbies. Like there was no point, right? I would have just rather just bought them, I guess,
Okay.
at that point. So like if we wanted to build a business, I was like, we got to build a community. That was just what was in my head. So we did, and we did it by featuring other people. Some people call it a repost account, right? Like and that was a big thing, and sure, but I think like that, people take that, like, we took that super seriously. So what it taught me like really, really quickly is I was like, oh, it's like social media, right? Like it's not posting your highlight reel. It's social media, meaning that it's media. So everyone needs to understand you're a media company. That's what you do, right? You and I we're putting content out right now,
Sure.
right? Like we're
Absolutely.
media.
Yep.
So like that means it has to be good, or no one's gonna care. So to me, like it's either educational or it's entertaining, and if it can be both, amazing. But for us right now, I don't know actually where we fit. Maybe it's a little educational. Hopefully, it's a little entertaining. I don't. Well, a couple. Well, you're at least a good-looking guy. We'll see how it goes. But like we took it super seriously that we were a media company, and we weren't just like screenshotting and posting. Like, we wanted to give credit. We gave our thoughts on the post. Like, it was very intense. It still is very intentional. We use our stories a lot right now because we can't use our feed. So that was a big transition for us, was that like our feed is basically our marketing right now. So we get DM'd a ton of pictures. I mean, like thousands, and we can't put them in. You can't just, you couldn't put just any picture in a magazine. You got to know like what's gonna work, right? Or a TV network for better. You can't just throw any show on. Like, you got to put something there people are gonna watch. But with the feed, we use the feed to feature people all the time, as much as we possibly can. So like for us, when I say like media, it's like we were really intentional with the media, but the social side was not just posting, it was reposting theirs, giving our genuine thoughts, not just like I'm going to put it out there a little bit, but then we would go and engage in other stuff because like I actually care. Like, it's like our Instagram's on my phone,
Okay.
right? Like, it's not like it's like in my partner Chris, it's on his phone. That's who runs our stuff. We do have a few other people that help us with DMs because it was important for us to continue to get back to people. But it's the media side. So your content has to be good. It's the social side, which means like it's not about you. It's actually about the people that are watching it. That's all that matters. So I think like that's a huge distinction, right? So I actually separate it. Like, I have my personal, it's me, Aaron Anders. If you look at that, man, that's just for me. Like, that's me. So I can scroll through it in 10 years with like pictures of my kids and like those things that you remember and like whatever. Like, I don't expect anything from that. Our business one, when I'm in our business, it's about everyone else. It does have to, like I said, I think about it about us, that the post can't underperform because it'll hurt us. But what it needs to do is it needs to be something that's entertaining to you. That's the filter it goes through.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
what has to happen. And so when they're pictures of our products, we're actually trying to showcase our products in a way that's entertaining to someone else or educational to someone else versus just an advertisement for ourselves. And we do it all day, every day for 4 years. Right? Like, that's
And
kind
that's
of what it
hard.
is. And so
That's hard.
it is. It's tough and it's work. And as I said, we do have a couple of other people that we've brought in, but they're people we know that love fishing, that'll sometimes help us with some posts or some thoughts, or if they see some stuff, like they're kind of like our extra eyes, because again, I mean, we have a whole bunch of other stuff. We've got the same thing. It used to be, so our pro staff, our director of pro staff was me for 2 years. Every pro staff application that came through, I read it, I dealt with it, I either accepted or rejected. But then at that point, I was saying like customer service and some of these other things with inventory were taking up a ton of my time to try to predict it out. So
No
we
doubt.
brought our boy Ed in. So I
Love
don't know if
Ed.
Ed's watching what you're talking about, but you know, Eddie, like
Yeah.
Ed's there. Ed's a huge part of what we're able to do because we had to like put somebody in to like support it, right? Support the foundation. So again, I'm talking, you asked about like how can somebody specifically with like their social media grow it. Like, that is a part you can get to. Like, you might need to get to a point, like there is a point where you can't, like, we write back to everybody, right? Like, someone out there, test it, send a DM, you'll probably get a response. I should say that now, but like, I'm going to be in there later looking to get through it. So unless someone gets missed or something gets missed, whether it's somebody that tagged us in a story and we're going to repost it, whether it's somebody sending a DM and asking a question, like, we are in it, and you can only imagine some
Well,
of the
and
things that we
that's what
get
I'm
asked.
trying to get, because I mean, I spend a lot of time on Instagram, like a lot of time, and I do the same thing that you do. You know, I comment on posts, and you know, I share other people's posts, and I get DMs myself, probably nowhere near what you're getting, but you know, and I
Mhm.
try and reply to every single one of those, and you know, I'm doing that with a full time job, probably just like you are, but uh,
Mhm.
I am probably on my phone, you know, like 4 hours a day doing all that. And you've
Yeah.
already said that you block 4 hours off just to reply back to people. Is that the only amount of time that you spend on there, or are you kind of off and on through the day as well as blocking off that time?
Both. I mean, tomorrow I have it blocked out. I don't, and this is what I mean. Like, it's actually me because I'm like, I don't know exactly. I'm probably going to send a text out late morning because I'm thinking of people on the West Coast in the U.S. I don't want to send them a text at like 5 a.m. Right? That's not.
Right.
Even if it is just a happy text, it's still a text at 5 a.m. I
Oh,
don't
and I
want to
totally
get that
forgot about
stuff.
that. Oh my god! So you have the Instagram thing going on as well as this text messaging thing.
Yeah. So the
Wow.
text. So I'll send the text around 11. I don't know, 11:30 to see what's going on. But like, and then from there, about the next 4 hours, I'm gonna probably let it sit for 30 minutes and let a bunch come in, and then I'm gonna get in there and write back to people and get back and forth, right? Like again, so that again, we got to that point of volume where we did have to bring somebody in,
Hmm.
but I mean, I'm Instagram, I'm in and out throughout the day, like I just like normal. I don't have notifications on my phone. I can't. It'll just my phone will melt,
Just a
right? But like
constant sound.
just constant, right? But like, so between like Shopify and like Instagram, all it's like all that stuff's off. Like I have to be able to go in. But if I've got 15 minutes, like I'll go in and look. Or if I,
Right.
and I'm in my own as much as I am probably Woo, but like my own, I follow everything. It's my own Instagram, right? Like, so I
Right.
follow and I see stuff and I'm like, that's interesting. Or I see our guys and I'm like, so I mean, if I'm in my own and I see somebody that's in Woo, like I'm going to go in and comment on their stuff. And I'm like, sometimes I don't even know which account I'm in, right? Like it's just again, that's what I mean. I'm like, it's like social, right? Like you want to be like that guy at the party that someone was like, they may not know exactly. You're not like a celebrity rolling around the party, but someone's like,
Right.
that guy was a nice guy. You remember that guy in the like that like
Sure.
Woo camo hat? Like he was a nice guy. I've seen him a few times actually, right? Like that's what you need to be, not the
Yeah.
guy who's like the what but the equivalent, the exact example of what I would say would be like, how do people do that? Most people would be that guy or that girl at the party that just like is obnoxiously talking about themselves constantly.
And you're
And
not that.
people,
You're not that though. Like,
we try not to be.
and you know what? So when I posted that we were doing this interview, you wouldn't believe the messages that I got. I think RD Fishing's on here. I think he messaged me in Instagram. I mean, the
Cool.
constant messages, there was like, oh man, I love Woo. Oh, I love Aaron. And he's such a down to earth guy. And, he's amazing. And, when I used to fish with Ed, we used to talk about you all the time because you, not in a bad way, that damn Aaron's catching all the fish, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like,
but, but we used to talk about just the individual that you are, and how it. I don't understand how you are so calm and put together when you're running two companies, and on top of your Instagram and all this stuff. Like, what you're presenting is honestly, I think, what people are getting, and it is exactly what you're intending to put out there. So, I mean, just a little congrats to put out there. That's amazing. It's kind of like, and I listen to a lot of Gary Vee, and he's always talking about being the nice guy, right? He wants to prove that being the nice guy pays off. You don't have to
mhm.
be a jerk in business, and you're just another example of that, which is amazing. So, I mean, it's not even just the brand Woo that's so good. It really is, I think, the people in behind Woo, because I know
Well, I
Ed's like
appreciate
that
it,
too.
man. And like, I think about like, I mean, it's actually there's take the people like the business. Like, you and I have been in the boat together, man. Before we started,
Yep.
like, I'm an angler, so I get it. Like, I have the amount of like crap I have in the room next door over to me right now that I shouldn't have, like, because I live in Canada and I know what it's like to order from Taco Warehouse and what a piss off that is.
Yeah.
And so we have some of these things here, and we're trying to do things with retailers here, and we're trying to do things because like I can 100% understand what it's like to be there because I'm there, right? Like the first classic I ever went to, the first time I ever went to the Bassmaster Classic was 3 years ago after the first year of Woo. That was the first time I ever went,
Wow.
and it was incredible, right? And so for me to like go there and be there with Ed and Blair and Tom, like I'm as blown away as everyone else is. You know what I mean? Because it's just, I love it that much, right? And I'm super fortunate that we've been able to make some cool connections along the way to create that experience. But when I think about it, like this, and again, this is, I think, why is like that's where I think when a business, people aren't in it, like because they're a fan of it, if you will. I mean, if I was selling, I don't know, if I was selling soap right now, I'm like, I don't, it would just be dollars and numbers in a
Sure.
spreadsheet. right? For me, like last year, we did a really cool prize at the Classic where we did a chance to ride through the Bassmaster Classic final day weigh-in fighters trucks, Seth Fighters truck.
Oh my
And
God,
it
that'd
was
be
the
amazing.
cool, so basically, because we're able to do it, because we've got Seth and a few other people to work with, like we could get backstage and do a bunch of those different things and be in the boatyard and I'm as I'm checking out a guy's boat, like I'm that way because but we drew the winner and it was about a 12-year-old kid that
No.
was able to win, which was the best part. He comes to our we get him and his family in a little early. We set them, make sure when Seth gets to the boatyard, we go out, we grab him and his dad, go out, see a bunch of the basically top guys. I mean, Hank Cherry was in the
Oh my
boatyard, who
God.
ended up winning. So they're hanging out with Hank Cherry and whatever, and talking to Seth and in his boat, and we got him, the llama shirt. I don't know if you've seen the llama shirt that we've done, but
Yeah.
like he's got a llama shirt. He's in the boat. He's got the llama rolling right, and then he jumps in the back seat of Seth's truck
Wow.
and rolls through weigh-in. And man, that was my favorite part of the Classic.
That would have been mine
Period.
too. That's amazing because
Right? Like just
11 years old. That's gonna be. He's gonna remember that for life. That's gonna be amazing.
but that's the whole point of it, right? And just in what you're saying. So I think like that's a big that you can't manufacture that in business, right? Like
Sure.
for me, again, you and I were in the boat prior. Like I love to fish. I love other people. I love all this stuff, and it kind of has manifested itself in a business where like when I think about the Classic, like we were literally like a foot and a half away from Hank Cherry as he like just after he won the Classic. Coming he does his like laugh, like the video and stuff on my phone is unbelievable. Like it was so cool.
I bet.
But like what I remember is like the look on that guy's face and the picture that he'll have with his dad and the fact that we were able to make that happen.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's a big piece of it, but it comes back to, as I said, like the genuine love and care for the sport
Sure.
allows you to kind of take joy in some of those things versus it being like a good brand moment.
Just want to make money, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So and again, I appreciate you saying the kind of things. I mean,
Well, you
I know
don't
a
have to
lot of
thank
people.
me. It's all the other guys that are saying it, man. I mean, I do love you and the company as well, but just I couldn't believe it. It just shocked me because you know, I mean, I talk to a lot of people online, and I don't think I've ever seen that type of love for a company before. So, so
Very cool.
just
Well, and
just congrats.
a lot. I appreciate that, and a lot of people don't realize that I'm from Canada. Right? A lot of people don't realize it. It isn't,
Sure.
an American company, but I'm from here. We're an American company because again, 98% of fishing dollars happen in the U.S.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
all the the feels that we just had, if you will, it is still about running a big business and
Sure.
running the business.
Of
So we
course.
set it up in the U.S. But yeah, I'm from here. The other thing that we hear every once in a while is the connection to Ben Wu. There is no connection to Ben Wu in our business whatsoever. On the record, like absolutely none, other
That's
than
funny.
his last name unfortunately finds itself attached somehow to our brand.
Yeah,
But
we've talked a lot
those,
about Ben Wu in the past on this podcast. We
and
won't
I'm
get
sure
into
you
that
have.
again.
I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure you have, right? So those are
Yeah,
the two things I think that a lot of people don't realize I'm from here, and that sometimes people think that our brand is connected, and I understand why someone would think,
sure.
but on the
You're not.
record, we have no connection with aforementioned individual.
Perfect. We do have a question. RD Fishing is hoping that he can get a glimpse of possibly what might be planned for 2021 for Woo. Are you able
Yeah,
to divulge anything?
for sure. World dominate. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. I mean, uh, things that would matter to them would be, so I imagine, new products. So right now we have a Tokyo rig that's done. So Tokyo
Nice.
rig should be out probably in the first 30 days. Um, there is so a couple things with the Tokyo rig. One, we did a double reinforced split ring instead of the welded O ring, so that if
Nice.
you catch a bunch of fish, you don't need to throw it out. You can actually change out the hook. It comes with a gammy hook, but I don't know, guys are particular about their hooks. I'm an angler. I am. So if you want to swap out the hook, no offense. It is a gammy though,
Yep.
But if you want to swap it out, you can. But if you bend it out or whatever, you don't need to just chuck the whole thing out. But it's a 50-pound test wire instead of a 25-pound test wire that would typically be in that size of an O-ring. So it's kind of a cool little extra debate. I'll share it. We made a longer one as well. Say the standard 2.5.
Okay.
We're playing with a 4.25 as well, just like you'd want to change the leader length of your drop shot. We're going to go 4.25. So I'll say it because
Nice.
someone wants to go out and like another company wants to go grab that. We're probably still going to beat them to market with it, but yeah, we're trying a bit of a longer one. A Jika Rig. So Jika Rig is getting more and more popular, and I know you can assemble them, but a lot of anglers just want to open a package and use
Of
it, right?
course.
So we've got our tie on drop shot weights. Again, a double reinforced, but a much smaller split ring. So we have them custom made. So it's a 20-pound, but it's in a really small, what you would normally have like an 8-pound where you'd bend that thing open. So we've got the Jika Rig, again, gammy hook that's with it, a few different sizes. So Jika in Tokyo, probably for 60 days.
Nice.
We've got a tube jig that is pretty damn close as well. So I'm really pushing to see if we can get that by May. If not May, June, because our window is like May, June, July, August,
Right.
and then it goes down. So if we get, we will launch stuff late in the year, but it kind of sucks. Like,
Yeah, you're not going to see the sales.
yeah, it just doesn't have the same thing. So Jika and Tokyo for sure, like literally in Q1. Really hoping we can get the tube jig out for May, if not June. Same thing with a swing head. So swing head we've been working on for a long time.
That's wicked.
It got shelved for a while, but it's pretty close. The biggest hang up on that is the wire. So we're having a hard time finding a smaller wire. So that you think like a 1 ounce lead, that wire into a 1 ounce or even a half ounce swing head is like it just looks terrible. Like I wouldn't fish it, so I can't finish it. So that's kind of what's there. But then once we finish the swing head, we can do a football head really easy with the same shape.
Nice.
So really hoping those are the ones. We've got an EWG Ned coming. It's that hook took forever to get perfect, as I said, the weight, and it's about a 9-month manufacture on the hook.
Wow.
So on the hook itself. So the heads will be ready when the hook's ready, but we're probably like fall of next year on the EWG, assuming things go well, but fall maybe early 2022. So Tokyo for sure, Jika for sure, swing or tube jig. I mean, tube jig should be. Unless something happens, the tube jig should be fine. It's more of a front weighted head, more like a goby than it is like the long lean. But we can get away with that with tungsten, right? Like it's a smaller. When it's like round like that, it's tough to do in lead because you can only get so much in a tube. So even those small tubes, so the Simcoe Secret, if you don't have it, but like the smaller 2.5 inch. So sorry, anybody, if I blew your cover on that. But you should be able to still get like a 3/8 ounce head in a small tube with tungsten. So that's the plan. And then what did I say? Yeah, swing head, football head, EWG. But the EWG is contingent on that hook being done,
right?
And the football head is contingent on the swing head design being done because we'll use the same football. We'll just put a hook in it.
I'm excited about those ones because those are what we drag in the fall for smallies. So I'm excited about those swing head footballs.
Yeah. Try them in July.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We got another question. We got another question here.
Well, not the super shallow.
Okay.
Super shallow 1/4 ounce in Simcoe with the swing head. Money.
There you go. Tips too. Fishing tips too. That's awesome. We got a question here from Classic J. Back to kind of the business part of it. To get yourself started, what kind of, and again, if this is too personal, you just tell us, we're not going to answer it. But he asked, how much debt do you have to go into to make it happen?
Not a lot. So I say that, like, again, super open with it because, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It just matters how big you want to go and how fast you want to go. Those are the variables. If you want to go big and you want to go faster, it takes a lot more. So, we're 4 years in. I don't take money out of the company. Like, I don't pull any money out of the company, period.
That's very good.
Like, I don't take a paycheck. I don't take anything. It's still, like, I just rhymed off new new like products. Each new product at this point to bring in the volume that we have to and do molding is about 12 to 15 grand US, roughly. So that's a new product. If I'm trying to go 4 or 5 sizes with it and bring in enough inventory to be able to withstand like a first run and then a second run, that's roughly what it is on a new product. But you know, you can, as I said, like we were like biting our lip at like bringing in 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it depends on the size and all the other stuff that you're playing with. But like,
So
I
if
don't
we
know,
brought
for
in like,
three to five,
if you brought in
three to
like a
five grand.
thousand of them, when you first started, bringing in 1,000 of them, let's just say you wanted to start it with, because I imagine you probably had a whole, like, did you have a whole arsenal of, like, let's say bullet heads, right? So we're gonna do
Yeah,
1,000 bullet heads, 1,000 quarter ounce, 1,000 whatever. Like, is that kind of where you started, and
yeah, yeah,
what would
and
that
then
go?
you put them into packs. Like again, I think it depends, right? So for like for us to start our business was around 10 grand Canadian. That
Nice.
is inventory. That is like again, we had to build a website, which was again 4 years. I know it sounds simple, but like I don't know how to do it. I probably should have got you to do it, right? But like we ended up doing the Shopify store, but I use a lot of freelancers through Upwork. Like that's how we piece together some of the stuff that we don't know how to do. Like our graphics
Sure.
guy, Terrence, he's an amazing guy, but he's connected to us through Upwork, and we have him on a monthly retainer now, and we can do whatever images. And some weeks or months we don't use them at all, and then Black Friday we like abuse them, right? Like we just have a great relationship with some of those things. So call it. But we brought in more. I don't know that I would go back and necessarily do it any differently, but like I've learned at this point, like flipping weights, 8 ounce, quarter ounce, 3/8, and half are going to be by far the the biggest sellers. I thought it was going to be the opposite. We thought we were going to sell like a ton of like ounce and a half, like ounce and a quarter, ounce and a half, 2 ounce weights because we could get them cheaper. Like
Okay.
in terms of like margin was way higher because on a tungsten weight, if they can cut it because they come in like giant bricks, right? So if they
Okay.
can melt them down into bigger pieces, it's actually cheaper because if you think of like a 16th ounce or into a 2 ounce, take a 2 ounce weight, they have to break that into 32 16th ounce weights, which is
Interesting.
significantly more labor intensive for them. They also then need to be packaged into ours are a 5 pack. So they have to put those in six different packs. So they have to put a 2 ounce weight makes 6 packs of 16 ounce weight. So there's that element to it. But we thought we were going to sell way more big weights. So we bought more, and they're more expensive, like capital wise, to bring in too, because of what I just said, right? Like the
Okay.
equivalent, you think of a 2 ounce weight. Now, again, it's not exactly apples to apples, but like if you think a 2 ounce weight makes 6 packs of 16th ounce weights. So if we're bringing in 50 packs of 2 ounce weights, it's the equivalent of us having brought in 300 16th ounce weights.
Interesting.
So we made that mistake on the front end. So quarter ounce, by far the most popular size. It doesn't matter if it's a flipping weight, if it's a drop shot weight. It makes like that is by far the most popular. But at this point, what we've started to add, like we have again 16th, 8th, 3/16, quarter, 5/16, 3/8. Like we're in every like vertical. So if someone was wanted to go start something cheap, let's say cheap, they'd bring in more popular sizes and spread them out, right? Like you can get away with, let's say, 8th, quarter, 3/8, half, 3/4, 1 ounce. Our 1 ounce pack is also a 2 pack. If I could change it, it'd be a 1 pack. But we have it set and it's in tackle where it's everywhere. For us to go from a 2 pack to a 1 pack would just be like
Everybody would revolt.
ridiculous. It'd just be so pain. We just have so much inventory out there right now. It would just be so painful to do. But
Right.
like that's another good example where it's like that's our lowest margin item because we can't. If someone sees us in Tackle Warehouse as a 1 ounce and we're 14.99, someone else is 11.99, but we're a 2 pack and they're a 1 pack, we're still a better deal. They're not buying ours. So there's that element to it. So again, call it 10 grand. Like it doesn't give you crazy debt, right? I'd say the bigger thing than money is time. Do you have the time to go deal with it? And it's again how big you want to go and how fast you want to go. We're 8th, quarter, 3/8, and half ounce drop shots. Quarter ounce is the most popular. You don't even need 8th if you're just starting. Like people buy eighth. Eighth is a good size, but it's a nice to have, not a need to have. So you could probably get away with like quarter, 3/8, and half. We just bought way more half ounce because I was used to throwing it in 30 feet on Simcoe, and I thought people would buy
Everybody
it.
will use it.
And now it didn't, so we made some mistakes. We could have shaved it down, but like, so again, that's roughly it. Nail weights are pretty simple. 1/16 and I'll say 1/16 and 3/32, but also 1/32. Those three sizes, you can get away with them. But when you start bringing up more sizes, you got to bring up more inventory, which creates more cash up front and cash flow as you grow. But yeah, I don't know. That'd be my advice. And as I said, the bigger thing is not going to be the dollars. It's going to be the time. It's going to be like the Instagram. It's going to, like we just talked about, all that other stuff. Like,
that's a ton.
We get that's it, right? And I guess that's what I went back to in the beginning. I'm like, it's no secret. Like, you know what I mean? Like anyone can go start it. That's why I say nothing's off the table, because I don't think that's the biggest issue to someone being able, like, person, I don't know their name, but like them, the person we're talking about, I can go start it. I'd love to see them go do well, right? They're not going to impact our world, I don't think. And if they do, that's on me, not on them.
That's a nice way to look at it.
That's on me, not on them. I'm not going to do anything to get in their way. The market is massive. The fishing market is freaking massive.
Oh, I agree.
There's so much room for so many people. But usually what happens is they'll get capped out at can they handle the volume? Like we get a lot of people that start to try to move to our brand and some of our pro staff stuff because of the response rate, and some of the other companies just straight up running out of inventory. Like it sucks to be quote unquote sponsored by a company that you can't get product for, you can't get a hold of.
For sure.
So that's going to be somebody's biggest. That's going to be the biggest hurdle, I would think, for somebody. And if you can get over that hurdle, and for me, we used to get emails that would be like, I just want to thank everybody at Woo, and it's literally my wife and I sitting on the couch in Orillia, Ontario, getting back to emails after our day jobs at 9:30 p.m. to finish out what we need to, right? So that's just reality, right? Like, so dollars wise, 10 grand, you can get yourself set up really well, really awesome. Well. Shipping in Canada sucks.
Yep.
So you're gonna have a really hard time doing free shipping in Canada. So don't copy that from the US. So just disclaimer, don't copy that.
Yeah, I did that by accident too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But you wouldn't know, right? Like, you would
no.
Just go, like, I don't know. Like shipping like something small in Canada is like $10. Like I don't know how you ship anything. Can't figure out how to ship something in Canada.
I know.
$10 in the US, it's like $4, and you can ship like a
horrible
brick from Florida to California. Like it's insane.
It's horrible. I think it was last Christmas I did free shipping on everything, and I cried every time I got an order because I made nothing.
Yeah. But it's learning, right? Like
it
all it
100%.
is learning. And so, and again, these are the things that, again, I have no issue sharing, because I'm like, if it can fast track somebody to being in a place where they can make some money and be more in the industry than they are right now, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And going back to, because you had talked about, sitting on the couch, and I do this too. You're sitting on the couch with your wife and you're reading through emails and IMs and stuff like that. And I know there's been a couple of times even on my side where I've kind of picked up the phone and like, oh, honey, you got to read this, and it's just a super nice email from a customer who, like, for an example, for me, when I send out an order, I handwrite a little note for every person that orders from me, just, hey, thanks for ordering. I hope you have a ton of fun with these megs or whatever. Right. And it's funny how like that impacts somebody so much. And so I kind of want to jump back with that to kind of when you were building up your social media, because I think social media will really help guys here. When you talked about creating that environment, that group of people, can you dig into a little bit about how you built that group of people? Because obviously, I mean, you're just not, yes, of course, posting content is important. And I've seen it myself, just before we started doing the interview here, I went back on your stuff, I think a couple of months. I went all the way back to the beginning, and I actually have to share the screen. I hope you guys can see it. This is your Instagram from day one. And so we got 44 likes and 2 comments, 27 likes and no comments. You know, these are all
That's
just,
unreal.
that's crazy, eh? So like we have all
I
this,
can't
and
see it, but I'd love to see the screenshot of that, man. I'd love to
yeah,
see it.
I
I haven't
will.
done that in a long
I
time.
will send it to you. And then if you jump back to the very, very beginning, this is just a picture of a simple tungsten weight. You have 862 likes and 23 comments on a simple tungsten weight. So, um, and so it kind of goes back, and I'm not sharing my screen. I just realized I'm horrible for this, by the way. I talk and share my screen, and it's not actually on the screen. But so what did you do? What did you do to change it from 42 likes all the way up to, you know, the second one you did, looks like yesterday, which is almost 2,000 likes? What did you do to build your following?
I mean, again, I think I wish there was like an easy answer, right? Like I think it's just like consistent little things. I think sometimes you don't even really know what it is, but it's time in the community. So again, reposting stuff, people like it, right? And then when they get reposted, they're started like people reciprocate that. Like that
Absolutely.
became a thing for us, and we do it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And our pro staff are phenomenal, right? Like they're a huge piece of what it is. We call them our pro staff family. Like we genuinely like I said, I'm going to take time out of my day to send messages and go back and forth with literally thousands of people through text message because I want to, because I am genuinely thankful. Like it's that reciprocation. So I think like that to me is the way I would describe it, like the reciprocation over time, over and over and over and over and over. Another big thing for us to be able to gain, like fast track that a bit, was giveaways. Giveaways were really big for us, and again, not 4 years ago, they might have been a bit different. They're not much different right now, but like giveaways were huge. We're partnering with another giveaway group right now called Big Fish Giveaways Instagram account. And basically, what we've tried to work with them, work with them, and to do ourselves is to create something where you're gaining. It's like marketing for your Instagram account, but gaining real fishing followers versus just BS. Like it makes my skin crawl, like the marketing BS. But
Yeah.
I think like the reciprocation. And what did we do? Like, I don't know the exact post that you're talking about, but I bet they're not much. I mean, one I understand is probably a fish and a guy and whatever. The other
Yes.
would be like just a fishing weight. But like, they're probably, our posts right now are not that much different than they were at the very beginning. It's
There it
awesome.
is. So
So
this
cool.
is, yeah. So there it is. I mean, it's the same post you're doing today. So for people that can see that,
Similar
this is,
posts. That's what I mean. They're
yeah,
all like,
they're
dude,
all the
I
same.
remember, it's so funny. I remember posting again raw fish because like, yeah, I know them because they're from here. But like, I love the
Right.
picture of the dude and his dog, right? Like, so we posted stuff like that. So again, Coop is on there. Like this is where it came from, right? But like, I don't think our content right now is much different. We just built a bigger community over time, so that when you do, I don't know, you have that like buddy that posts something that's kind of dumb, but you like it anyways because he's your buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we have. That's why people like us the pictures,
You know,
right? Like
it's
it's the
funny though
same
that
idea.
it's funny you say that though. Like, and again, I'm going back to Gary Vee. I listen to him a lot. I don't really follow his advice very well, but I like to listen to him. And you know, he says the same thing, right? He just throw it out, right? Like he throws out wine library, right? And I mean, the guy's a social media guy. He talks about how to grow your social media channel, but he's out there telling people about like wine that he likes. And the funny part about it is, like he says, is, you know, you never know, right? And that's where I kind of changed mine, you know, to throw out how kind of computer nerdy I am, because it turns out, after I did that, there's other fisher guys that are completely nerdy, just like me,
Yeah.
and it's interesting, like you say, right? Like what may fancy one person may not fancy another, and just kind of throw it all out there.
Well, it's funny because it's like the more, and again, we're not talking about just pictures of weights and just different stuff, but like the more you're yourself, the
Yeah,
actually easier it is. You have more content because you're not trying to like navigate around something, but
right.
it's so it's easier. And so people are like get afraid of that, but like it's easier, and on top of that, like you have a more relatable, genuine, I guess, just set of content, which means it is people are going to like uptake it a bit more, right? Like you can smell when somebody's like full of it a
Oh
bit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, and I think
and I think
that's
you get
that's
back to your previous point where you're talking about like, okay, I'm Aaron Anders who loves fishing. I made this Woo Tungsten brand because it was something that I wanted to do, and I felt that there was a market need for it, and I put the two together, and you can really get, the feels, as you said earlier, from it all, and I think that's huge, because I feel like I see a lot of people out there trying to sell. And I don't disagree that you have to sell. You have product pictures on yours as well, but the far
Mhm.
majority of your content is more just hanging out with guys, showing off fish, talking about fishing, and a genuine love for the sport. So if I'm hearing you correctly, kind of, if people want to start maybe doing their own company or their own fishing brand or something like that, 100% content, right? You're going to put in a ton of content, but make sure it's stuff that you love. Make sure that it's you. Make sure it's honest. And you might be the next Woo.
Well, give it a ton of time,
Yeah.
right? Like give it a ton of time, right? It can't be a 6 month thing. And again, I think like especially in Canada, like it's interesting. Like we're talking about fishing, but like seasonality, right, is coming
Hmm.
up. If you're a hardcore bass guy, you're not gonna, and that's all you do. That's also, it's one, it's fine. Two, you're gonna have a really hard time with content for the next
Hmm.
4 months, 6 months, right? Like that's gonna be really tough. On the
Right.
flip, if you are multi-species, you're not, when you post a picture, like for me, like I'm just not, it's just not, it's nothing. I mean, we just talked about, I love lake trout fishing, but like I'm a hardcore bass guy. That's just who I am. So like I scroll past pictures of pike and perch, right? Like I have nothing against them. I fish for
Sure.
them, but it's not going to catch my interest the same. So like it's different, right? Than in the U.S., you almost need to have like this. You can't, if you want to have a bigger following, you need to have a more, let's say, like global or hyper regional. Like your Aurelia fishing is awesome, right? It's hyper regional, and it's a great thing, and it's also going to probably cap you
Oh yeah.
into getting to like. And I don't think that's your goal. And I put you on the spot for that with it, but like,
No,
you know
no.
what I mean? Like it's like guy in Texas is going to have way more content, but if someone in Texas only wants to be from like Lake Conroe area, they're also going to be capped. But if they want to be across the nation and develop relationships and be part of communities and all sorts of different things in California and in Tennessee and in Florida, like they're going to have a way bigger audience to grow from. So if you're a hardcore bass guy, again, you're kind of up against it here, but you gotta have a U.S. following. There's like
I
no way
agree.
around it.
I
And
agree.
if you are a multi-species guy up here, fantastic. You're gonna limit yourself because not everybody, like I can't engage with I have a ton of respect for the river, and I used to fish it a lot. I haven't had space to. So in the fall, when there's unreal steelhead photos and all sorts of content around salmon and all, I just can't
Scroll
get
past,
into
right?
it because it's not. I scroll past. I don't hunt.
Yeah.
It's another thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
interested in it. I scroll past. So you kind of have this like kind of like dual thing for people that are up here. As long as you recognize it, that's cool, and you have to put a crap load of time into it for a long time to
Yeah.
be able to see it. But it can be there, and then giveaways and collabs are huge.
Nice.
They're just huge
Nice.
because you gotta have good content, but you'll be able to do both. So
Nice. Good tips. I appreciate that. Last question here. This is from my buddy Brian. He's saying, "Hey, Aaron, when are you breaking into the hard water game?" And I'm assuming from the last thing you just said is never.
uh, you know what? It's not never. We've debated it hard for the last 2-3 years.
I'm just saying, Ed came
Um,
out. Ed came out. I mean, you got to go out. You got to
we've
catch
been
a bigger
debating it.
whitefish.
You know what? I love whitefish. They're so freaking tasty, man. Smoked whitefish, they're so good. But so I definitely won't say never because we talk about it every fall. Um, we talk about it every fall. The way we've talked about it is always been: is it another brand? Not necessarily. Is it not Wu Tungsten? But is it Wu Tungsten that lives in like a slightly different place,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm my genuine like concern is that does it hurt, you know, our Texas anglers that just don't care. So everything we just talked about scrolling past and creating that, does it create internal brand conflict? And the answer is like directly, absolutely it does. So, you know, it so you can almost hear it in my like it's there. It's not a never. It's definitely not a never. But if it is, I think it needs to be its own brand, not its own company. But it's got to be almost it's like Wu Tungsten Ice, and it's its own massive local northern U.S. Canada following.
Separate Instagram page, everything.
It's got to be separate. It's
Yeah.
got to be separate. I think and you know sometimes we use some pretty cool ice jigs for bass fishing, right? Like for you know or whatever. Like so, not that there'd be a huge crossover, but I could see there being a bit of stuff there. Like you know, I saw some guys last year, the year before. Last year, the year before in the Elite Series, we're actually using the Rapala ice jig that moves in circles.
Yeah,
on some of the vertical fish.
I saw that too.
Cool to see. So there's some crossover. Not that we're going to try and go crazy with crossover, but like if we do it, you know, you're talking about Meigs. Like I'd love to do that as a collab in Tungsten.
Well, I'll tell you right now, like if you could get a Meigs and Tungsten, I mean, now you're dropping down, you know, from that giant bait down to something a lot more smaller. And with the pressure that's currently on Simcoe with the Meigs jig, people are already dropping down to the 1/4 ounce Meigs jig to get a bite because the 1/2 ounce isn't working. But, you know,
that 1/2 ounce would be the size of a 1/4. You could get up to an ounce within a half. Like, so again, that's what I mean. Like, I don't mean to call it, but like, you know, stuff you're mentioning, but like, our guys in California, like, they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Unless we put it in a tube jig and then there's maybe something that, but we're not going to force it, right? Like, so, you know, our focus right now is retail in the U.S. and trying to deal with some retail. I, to be very honest, it's not fun.
I bet.
But it's not fun, but I feel like we're getting forced into it, which is fine. I also think it's our best way to service Canada a little bit better with what we just talked about with shipping is to actually be available in different places. So that's kind of our focus for 2021. But, you know, if Meigs came and was like, hey, do you want it? Like, we'd be interested in doing something like that. I think about something like there's some pretty cool crappie jigs that we could make that are there, but I wouldn't want to just like off the shelf them. I'd want to do a bit of design and get a bit of a better hook in there than you typically can. Which now we're into, like, again, I mentioned it's like 18 to 24 months to design something out.
Sure.
We probably fast track it in certain places, but the hook, like the hook sitting in that, right? Like you can't just like lead make the mold and then put the hook in and pour it because the tungsten melts it has a higher melting point than steel. It just melts the hook.
Oh.
Right. So there's a lot of different design in having to get like a cavity there. A lot of if you see a hook at a tungsten jig, it's usually welded in with tin. Usually.
Interesting.
So it's usually got some sort of like a flipping jig would usually have like the eye where it is. You're probably going underneath like almost like a cavity, like a little tunnel. So the eye will go through and be there. So there's like a little crossbar so that it's not going to pull out.
Interesting.
But it's going to get welded in place with tin because the hook always have to get put in separate. So like part of those things create like a lot of the extra cost in tungsten.
I bet.
And it's just a trade-off as to like, does it make sense? So those tiny jigs are tough. But as I said, we talk about it every year. When I say every year, the last 2 years we've talked about it. Usually in July we start talking about it, and we get guys that ask for it. But if we do it, it'll be like a separate internal brand. It'll still be the same company, but like we'll spin it off so that things like because marketing, it's marketing. Like we just talked about being relevant to people and all that other stuff. Like a huge, like we do 98% of our business in the U.S., but I'd say 80% comes from 5 states. Right, like so. Though 80% of our people won't like the only ice they want is in a drink.
Yeah.
So like that's you know what I mean. Like, so we have to spin it out a bit, but I don't know. Like I'm interested. If someone's interested,
I'm seeing some interest in the chat. You know, I'm seeing guys asking for rod socks for ice rods, and well, I hope James Meager's watching this.
Well, as I said, and that's not a call out on him at all. He's done an awesome job with those jigs. And
100%.
Who does bad boys? Like I worked for him when I was 12. When we talk about like love and fishing, like my summer job was at a worm counter. Like I take those giant crates of worms
I
and
did
count
that
them in
too.
the dozens. Like, you know what I mean,
Crap
man? Like,
job, yeah.
so like as I said, they've done like and I loved it. It was a crap job, you're right, but I freaking loved it,
Oh
right?
yeah,
To the
no, it's
tax
great.
store.
Yeah.
But
If I could go
you
back
know,
there, that would be the one
I
job that
think,
I'd love to do for the rest of my life. That's a good job.
man, I wish it could just pay a little better. If it could pay
Yeah.
my mortgage, I might do it too. But
There you go.
yeah, as I said, I don't know, like all that stuff, like ice, it would be interesting to me. Um, it carries all those other issues,
Sure.
but it's probably got space in the category. And the thing that I would have on that too is I'd probably need or want somebody who's genuinely an amazing ice angler, because I'm not. I don't
Well,
spend a lot of time on the ice.
with that existing Woo brand, I don't think it would be hard to find anybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just that back to the genuine thing, right? Like I can't. It's just like I'm not a fan of classical music. Like I could be like, that's kind of cool, but I have no idea if it's actually good.
I
I
hear you.
can't do that to the level that I can with like the Ned. That was a huge thing for us, right? Like the amount of time I was like knocking those off ledges and into a bucket in my kitchen to see if they would
No
land
way.
in water and sit straight up. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like that's really important. I can't do that with ice jigs the same way. I just
Sure.
don't have the time on the water or
Sure.
on the hard
Sure.
water, I guess, in that case. But
Well, man, I
yeah,
would love to keep chatting some hard water with you and try and talk you into it, but we've hit the hour, and I'm unfortunately limited by the hour. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I thought it would
of
turn a
course, man.
little bit different, but the questions kind of brought us into where people wanted, so I'm happy with that. Um, yeah, man, I hope we meet up on the water again. I know I haven't been at the club for a while, but if COVID finishes next year, man, I'd love to get back in the boat with you as a non-boater
And you
and
know what?
fish
I
a
haven't been
few.
at the club in a while either. When I say that, like obviously with COVID and whatever, but the club had an awesome year, right? Like just as a quick plug on the Berry Club, like
Yeah,
the tournaments on the water were awesome this year. They were really done well. Ours, you have to do everything Zoom, right? So that's not a push at you or anybody else, but like
no,
I think there's people that right now with COVID, if you want to engage in it in a safe way, there's a lot of ways to engage in a lot of different things right now. And yeah, man, I hope we can meet up in the water. I'd be pumped to do this with you again anytime, man. As I said,
that's awesome.
it's stuff's fun for me. So
Good,
thanks for chopping it up and shooting back and forth through text and getting me the link and everything else you need to do. So have an awesome holidays.
awesome. Thanks you too, and say the best to the family there.